morning, everybody. Thank you so much all for being here. Super excited to see so many people in the room from so many different organisations. So I'm Sam Goodall, I'm Chief Executive of Cambridge CleanTech. We're an innovation network that started about 12 years ago in Cambridge, working for the technology cluster there to really try and accelerate the ecosystem around clean tech and climate tech. And I think today and where we're trying to go now with the ClimateTech SuperCluster is really an evolution of that step, the relationship with Oxfordshire Green Tech, some of the collaborations we're now starting to build, Sustainable Ventures, London Partners, EDF, and lots of the other people in the room.
It was really exciting today to discuss what we could achieve all together, working to become more than just the sum of our parts, to deliver climate change innovation for a large impact, both for the environment and to deliver commercial success for the kind of innovators that we support. There's a lot of activity going on in this ecosystem. By working more closely together, we can gain speed and scale, and that's really important. So in any single part of this ecosystem, in places like London or Paris, you only have access to some of the human resources and some of the capital investment. But if you pull this all together, then we can actually do so much more.
For EITO, mobility was a great opportunity to become part of something larger and connecting evidently the UK to Belgium, France and the Netherlands is really logical. What I really liked was also the interconnection by rail. And so combining basically the largest parts, economical parts and infrastructural parts of Europe, also combining all the complexities of these areas, which are basically metropolitan areas, is great. And then also involving the smaller cities surrounding these metropoles is really, really genius, I would say. So as EITO Mobility, we're really delighted to be part of this.
I think the most interesting thing is actually people coming from a range of different backgrounds that are all passionate about climate and doing something around climate, and that everybody has a different perspective. And if we join forces together, that we actually have more of a likelihood of really being able to make some significant change and impact.
So again, what we're observing here is that almost half the group stood up with the other category, which is when we think about complex networks that need to convene to create this scaling of great innovation and ultimate effect or impact, we really need to be thinking about that assembly. So thank you so much.
The single biggest benefit of the ClimateTech SuperCluster is to unlock the greatest innovation and investment opportunity on the planet, namely the climate crisis, by bringing together a network of networks across the UK, France, Belgium, the Netherlands and Germany around climate tech.
Lots of highlights for me. One big highlight was actually having a tour of the building from Andrew Wordsworth. It was amazing to see the space, but also just meeting so many people that are operating in the same space. We're based in Birmingham, and it's so great to connect to other parts of the UK and beyond. So it was done so well, the event, such a great cross-section of people. So.
Yeah, as the facilitator today, I had the pleasure of convening more than 60 people, and the real value of today is seeing people collaborate and really activating how they can convene, share their ideas and perspectives, and really start to take hold of a really exciting potential, which is this notion of a supercluster, which in itself is something that is a little bit kind of mystical, it's very abstract, but today was just fantastic for people to start to process that idea and think about practical ways that could be a reality. I think there are two things that really stood out for me. One is that people need the power of association to make things happen, and the concept of the supercluster as a brand, as an identity for multiple countries and multiple ecosystems to really connect is really, really powerful. And the second one is that this ability to facilitate and connect is really critical for innovation to take scale. And for us to really hit the net zero targets that we're talking about, we need to see that innovation scale and get the right partnerships and the right connections happening so that we see that as a reality.
So we are super excited by the potential of the ClimateTech SuperCluster. The biggest outcome would be bringing together this critical mass of the really exciting innovation that's going on across the cities in Europe so that we can deliver against the challenge of net zero and decarbonisation and all the other sustainability challenges that we are facing, using the really amazing innovations that are happening but are currently facing struggles with scaling and lacking the infrastructure. This supercluster will bring together that system of infrastructure which will enable these innovations to scale and deliver the promise of the impact that they could deliver on.
Today felt like a real inflection point for us. We've been as a three founding organisations, Oxfordshire Green Tech, Cambridge Clean Tech and Liminal, we've been having conversations both internally and with partners leading up to this workshop today. And there's been an incredible amount of energy for the ClimateTech SuperCluster, both as a geographic and economic reality, but also as the cluster development organisation that we are taking forward. But those conversations and that energy alone aren't enough. And we know that we can't, when it comes to the urgency of the climate crisis, we can't just have another talking shop of a bunch of people in a room. It needs to go far beyond that. And so we've had really valid and really useful conversations today about the business model and how this supercluster operates. How do members across different countries, how do corporates, investors, innovators, universities all interact with each other in a way that is mutually beneficial and is more than the sum of its parts. So those will be real questions that we'll be taking forward. We'll be listening to the insights that we've heard from the room as well, the challenges put up that people think that the supercluster could look to address, and the different things, the different skills, experiences, the different sectors represented in the room that people feel they can really add to the supercluster. We'll be looking to map those as well in a more concrete way and taking forward one-to-one conversations with organisations that are keen to be involved in this process as we continue. And essentially we'll be looking to establish how do we make the ClimateTech SuperCluster real? How do we engage people? How do we buy them in? How do we co-create something that people feel that they're part of and that they can get value from as well, as we look to scale the climate tech infrastructure and ecosystem and therefore deliver real impact, not just for the Northern European space, but for the wider world too.
The underlying theory of change around the supercluster is that within some of the innovation hotspots within this region, so for example Cambridge or Oxford, Durham, Antwerp or Paris, there are these very high value innovation driven enterprises, and they're developing technologies that can really have climate positive impact. And it's our mission to find those technologies and then to help them scale. And to help them scale, we try and help them find scaling partners. So a scaling partner could be a university, it could be an investor, or it could be a corporate. And actually even more likely, it's going to be a mix of those things. And so that's why the ecosystem engagement through the supercluster is super valuable. So a company might be found through the supercluster. We then help them into a pilot with a corporate partner, and they might get some non-dilutive or investment funding from a government body or agency. And that's how we see the supercluster helps those really high impact SMEs, innovators to have impact at a global scale.